to Spartan Stadium with a game time temperature in the 50s for the Cougars and the Spartans. Good afternoon, everybody. Mike Patrick, Ed Cunningham. It's great to have you with us. Dr. Jerry Punch will join us shortly. In the last 6 years, Michigan State has won 11 games 5 times, a remarkable record. And they always seem to win the close ones, too. But not this year. The breaks haven't gone their way. Add to that injuries and inexperience, and you have a very un-Sparty-like start of 2-2.
And head Sparty is scratching his head a little bit. Mark D'Antonio, after a tough day yesterday where they had to bury their teammate Mylon Hicks, was very candid with us. He said, we've been a little discombobulated. It's not like who we are. And things got worse this week on their defensive front. The defensive front has been the star of this program for a long time. And bad news, they have a lot of injuries with Bulla, Williams, and Reschke out today. Malik McDowell, because of last week, targeting what I thought was a correct crown of the helmet targeting call against Indiana. Malik McDowell, who, oh, by the way, is a projected top 10 NFL pick, so he is a difference maker, is going to be out today. And that is tough against a BYU team that can really run the ball.
And so much off-the-field pain for Michigan State. For more on that, let's go to Dr. Jerry Punch. Doc?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. You know, for the Spartans of Michigan State, losing the first 2 conference games of the year was disappointing. But losing 2 former teammates in the past 3 months has been devastating. It all began in late July when former Spartan punter Mike Sadler died tragically in a car crash that also claimed the life of Nebraska punter Sam Foltz. And then just 13 days ago, former linebacker and safety Mylon Hicks, who had been named Spartans' most inspirational player as a senior, was tragically shot and killed in Canada. Yesterday afternoon, 40 Michigan State players, along with coaches, bus to Detroit to attend his funeral. Head coach Mark D'Antonio said, "This is just tragic and has rocked our Spartan football community." He said so many players, like 5th-year senior tight end Jamal Lyles, who were so close to Mylon, are having a tough time. To honor Mylon Hicks' memory today, Michigan State has painted his number 6 on the Spartan helmet at midfield, and you'll also see that number in many other places as both fans and players pay their respects. And how special that BYU, without telling anyone, placed flowers at the 3-yard line and 6-yard line to honor both players who wore numbers 3 and 6. Mike, tragic events like this really helps us all put sports into perspective.
You're absolutely right, Jerry, and it was such a touching and classy thing to do for the BYU program to present these flowers to Jamal Lyles, a very close friend of Mylon Hicks, representing the family. Just a remarkable scene there. And
Kalani Sitake, the new head coach for BYU, choosing to bring his players out during the pregame ceremony for Mylon Hicks. The away team can actually choose to stay in the locker room for any pregame ceremonies for the home team. Kalani Sitake, in his first year, made a very classy move. The entire BYU team was on the field for that moment of silence. It was a special moment in this building.
Juergens on the return for BYU. Makes one man miss. Gets across the 20 to about the 23-yard line. Taysom Hill will lead out the BYU offense. Finishing a full BYU schedule has certainly been an issue for the 5th-year senior. 3 times injuries have ended his season early. He did complete the entire 2013 season, was wildly successful, rushing for more than 1,300 yards. He is such a threat from behind center. He has rushed for 60 or more yards in 19 of his 26 starts.
Late substitution, some confusion. We talked about defense for Michigan State.
Hill throws to Kurtz for a short gain on 1st down.
Chris Fry for Michigan State was late running out there. Remember, we mentioned Riley Bulla and John Reschke out. Fry a normal starter, so he may have just been a little confused. And Taysom Hill, who's at times been as brilliant as has ever been at BYU at quarterback. That's a mouthful with the guys that they have had. And he's coached now by one of the best ever. Ty Detmer is now the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator after a start in the high school ranks in Texas as a coach.
Jamal Williams coming off a 286-yard record-setting performance a week ago against Toledo. Knocked down by Shane Jones, but has enough for a first down. 286 yards.
They couldn't slow him down in the fourth quarter. It was the Williams show. They even got some run in for Squally Canada, transfer from Washington State. This guy is big and powerful. And you are talking about, if you looked at last year's defensive front right now, the defensive line, these guys weren't even on the field. They weren't even on the roster. The top 10 defensive linemen from last year are not playing today.
And they've added to that total here. Williams slashes up the middle down to the Michigan State 44-yard line. Monte Nicholson, one of the safeties, made the tackle. This guy, big body, 6'2", 220.
Very good long stride, good vision, good acceleration. And this is an offensive line that has had to change technique a little bit. Kalani Sitake, a former fullback at BYU. Everybody talked about how BYU threw it. They could knuckle down and run it when Sitake played, and that's what they brought back. A little more power up front with their run blocking.
Williams again. Danced past one tackler, ran through another to the 35. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Hey, BYU offensive coordinator Tyler Detmer told me because of Michigan State's thinness up front and all the movement they had changing players this week, they were going to go with some trickeration early on and maybe even some up-tempo to try to make these guys have to worry about reading what they can read, knowing they've made a lot of replacements and also pretty thin defensively up front.
That sounds like a really good plan, Jerry. And right now, the trickeration worked because of the penalty, but zone run plays are working really well. I mean, there is huge holes right now for Williams. This looks a little easy.
Hill with plenty of time. Open receiver and just off the fingertips of Hefo.
Yeah, Aleva Hefo, a young man who has really good quicks, and he's going to run a corner route that is open, and the quarterback just missed it a bit. That's a tough throw. Corners can be a hard throw, and
Schoaf was able to get off the field under his own power. Kurtz with the catch on a short one over the middle.
Nice.
They'll still need about 6-7 yards for a first down. Shane Jones, the middle linebacker, filling in for Riley Bulla, made that stop.
And Taysom Hill, a guy who we showed all of the leg injuries he's had, he won a quarterback battle with Tanner Mangum, who started last year when Hill was out. Mangum, probably the better thrower overall, but Hill, a really dynamic runner, not quite the runner he was before. But this is a down and distance where when you call the drop back, if you bring pressure, if you're Michigan State, this guy can really hurt you with his feet.
A couple of years ago, before his third season-ending injury, he was maybe the best runner in the country. Under pressure here, can't get away, throws. Williams can't make the catch at the 30.
I think you
Good
think
pressure
about
from Andrew Dowell.
I think you think of fourth down here because you're right at the edge of Rhett Allman territory. Remember, Jake Oldroyd, the kicker who took over and won the Arizona game, is out with a back injury. And so they are going for it. I like this call. You're on the road. Of course, everything's non-conference for BYU, right? So why not play for it? And this is something where I don't think I'd want Hill standing right in the pocket. Maybe move him to his right. You've got stacked receivers to that side. I wouldn't want him just standing there necessarily.
Hill throws underneath. That's going to be short of a first down. Trineman made the catch, but there is a flag down in the secondary.
That was terrific coverage by Michigan State. They have a lot of guys down up front, but they have a veteran secondary. And Hill was looking for a route just beyond the sticks. It was covered by the safety, had to come back down. Good recovery by the secondary to make a tackle. And it was that late pressure. BYU left Jamal Williams in, but late pressure made him come off the longer throw. So well defended by Michigan State.
Having an extended conference here.
Pass interference, defense, offense, number 87. That penalty's declined. Ball goes over on downs.
Probably a pick as Mitchell Juergens is called for the penalty. So the ball's turned over on downs. Michigan State will have it for the first time.
No harm for BYU. The play was executed and didn't get the first down.
Michigan State from its 28-yard line. First play, complete pass out to the 35 for the first down. Shelton makes the catch from Tyler O'Connor. He's a fifth-year senior, 3-2 as a starter for the Spartans. 2 of those wins came against Ohio State and Notre Dame on the road. Last week at Indiana, he had career highs in completions and passing yards. He's averaged 2 touchdowns a game this year, but his interceptions have been an issue.
For this year, his big claim to fame was he was the guy who lost the quarterback battle to Connor Cook in 2013. Instead of transferring, O'Connor hung in there, and things haven't quite gone his way his senior year. But he's a good, tough runner with an accurate arm.
We get out to Shelton in a hurry, and he is drilled by Michael Davis.
Well defended. BYU has some injury issues of their own on defense today. Butch Powell is out, their linebacker, and Tomasi Laulile is out, the defensive end who hurt his knee in practice this week. So both teams a little light with some very good, especially Powell, a very productive linebacker, out today for BYU.
Almost every statistical comparison you see for the Spartans between this year and last favors last year. This pass goes underneath, complete to Donnie Corley, a freshman wide receiver, as they try to get some more speed out of the freshman class. They got some guys who are real burners. They just have no experience.
Corley, a young man that they're feeling like they need to get more. He was a spring enrollee. Need to get him some more snaps, starting to get a good feel. But this offense, it's hard to compare last year to this year. The offensive line hasn't quite gelled like they'd hoped. They've had a couple of injuries, a couple of moves that didn't work out.
O'Connor with plenty of time in the packet, throws complete. Got his tight end Josiah Price.
You know, everybody, whenever an offense is struggling, everyone wants the quarterback changed. I studied Tyler O'Connor yesterday for a pretty long time. Watch this weight transfer in this throw. Up on his toe, there's a little bit of pressure. This is a terrific throw into traffic, and Price has great hands.
O'Connor puts some zip on the ball, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I really, it's watching him on film, this is not all him.
Holmes just taken down by the ankles after a gain of 3. Logan Taele.
And what a good answer by Michigan State offensively. BYU comes out and looks like they're going to march right down the field. Michigan State gets a nice stop on 4th down.
Corley had been out for a play, checks back in.
You know,
hasn't that man done a magnificent job here?
Well, I was just going to say Nick Saban just popped up there as a promo for the game that, of course, Saban left here to go to LSU, then Miami Dolphins, then to Alabama. But what Mark D'Antonio has done is...
Holmes again. This time exploited a good hole. He'll be about a half a yard shy of another first down for Michigan State.
And this is the type of run where when things are going well for this offense, they're getting 5 and 6, and they just haven't been all year. The last week against Indiana, who Kevin Wilson has done as good a job as anybody in the country at building a program at Indiana. They are stout up front, very good on defense. But Michigan State was really struggling running the ball in the second half of that game in which they lost.
Holmes down the eye with a fullback in front of him. Trying to get that yardage. Still struggling. It's down near the 11-yard line. It will be a first down. Now, this BYU defense has been pretty decent against the run this year. They've been exploited by the pass, but Michigan State doing it on the ground now.
Yeah, and I had mentioned, and it's worth mentioning again, 2 really key players out for this staff at BYU. First-year staff, of course, is Bronco Mendenhall decided to take his wares to the University of Virginia, having, of course, mixed results with the Wahoos.
You talked about those Brigham Young injuries. Pahu is a tremendous loss for them. Very dynamic middle linebacker.
And they changed defense. They switched up the offense a bit when Bronco left. They went to a more, although they do a lot of spreads still at BYU, but more of a traditional kind of run game with a power back. And on defense, they went from 3 down linemen to 4 down linemen. And then through some attrition, and we mentioned an injury, they're down a few guys as well. So they're in a year of transition. But in talking to this staff, it's an impressive group. And Kalani Sitake was a great hire. He seems like just a perfect match for this job. Great energy. Great intensity, and I know he'll recruit really well there.
Three-time team captain when he played. Holmes again. Blockers in front, inside the 5. Touchdown. Fred Warner had a shot at him and couldn't pull him down. Holmes used that 222-pound frame very, very well.
Well, there's a lot of running back by committee this season, and it looks like Gerald Holmes is trying to assert himself as the guy. This was incredible running the entire drive. Every time they gave him a ball, it looked like the first tackle. I don't remember the first tackle doing much to him at all. First tackler on that drive. Well played.
Geiger will come on for the point after and converts. So Michigan State uses 15 plays to go 72 yards in a little bit over 7 minutes and take a first period lead here at home. Welcome back to Michigan State. 7-0 Spartans over BYU.
If that thing started walking, I'm out of here.
You movie producer, you're always thinking about those things. Juergens and Hefo are deep. Juergens 6 yards deep in the end zone. He'll take it there. So 2 high school buddies go to a holiday party, talk about opening a microbrewery and distillery. 2 years later, the Ellison Brewery and Spirits opened in East Lansing. Just like that.
Life is magic.
Williams off the right side to the 31. Nice solid tackle by Monte Nichols. That's the end of the first quarter of this presentation of college football. We'll continue after this message and a word from our ABC station. Where Michigan State leads BYU 7-0. Start of the second quarter. The Cougars second down. Taysom Hill with plenty of time, throws sidearm and completes to Hunter Marshall, his big tight end. We go to Jerry Punch.
Hey guys, BYU senior quarterback Taysom Hill is not your typical student athlete. He's a 26-year-old married man coming off his 3rd season-ending injury in 4 years. Yeah, right there, 2012, got the knee injury. 2014, look away, but that left ankle just snaps right above the lower part of the leg. And then last year in the opening play of the series, he had a Liz Frank fracture of his right foot. Now required almost 10 months of rehab to get that right foot back. So 3 season-ending knee injuries in 4 years, but he is a gutsy young man and has come back to play and lead this Cougar team.
Jerry, he has had such a great attitude throughout his career, injuries and all. And a couple of years ago, he was still one of the most dynamic players in college football. Here goes Williams. He'll pick up a couple. He was a kid I always rooted for because the first time I saw him, I thought, how talented
just such
is
a different
this guy?
athlete. Yeah. Really high-level athlete. He's got a good arm. His footwork, you know, for a guy who was probably more of a runner coming out of high school, he still can work on it. But he still has a little pop in his step. Not quite what it was. And one of the more impressive things I've ever seen, when he injured his foot against Nebraska, he finished the game.
Yeah.
He played the whole 4th quarter with a severely injured foot.
Said he felt like it was on fire.
Yeah. And
the good part of it, the doctors told him he couldn't hurt it anymore if he could stand the pain.
Well, he stood.
And he did.
And he was in there for the entire 4th quarter. And now you get to see, okay, what type of pocket passer you are. Remember, we've seen a little bit of the pocket collapsing. Right now you've got tight end and a back end possibly to help. Looks like pressure from Michigan State.
Hill with plenty of time, floats that one complete, and a big shot on Mitchell. Juergens drilled out of bounds, but he held on, a gain of 20, and a very patient play by Taysom Hill.
Mitchell Juergens did a wonderful job of backing away, and I'll tell you right now, the defender there, Monte Nicholson, has to be very careful with targeting. He came in and launched. It looked like he did a launching action, And because the receiver had given his body up to make the catch, very close to another target.
Williams is back in on first down. They fake it to him. Hill throws and dropped by Baldery.
I'm not sure he's going more than a foot or two after he catches it, so he'll be pretty upset. But there were plenty of defenders in that space, so I think Baldery will go over and be a little upset. But
this was a school that had so many great tight ends, one after the other after the other. And this is what they're trying to get back to be able to recruit tight ends and be part of this pro-style offense.
Feels like a rundown to me.
Right you are. Williams still on his feet. Inside the 5. Still driving. Taken out of bounds. Nicholson's got to be careful.
This guy can really run. When he puts it in the ground, he's hard to bring down. And you're right. Nicholson's got to be careful. If Williams didn't have great balance and decided to flop there,
if he hits the ground, it's a penalty.
He may have gotten a penalty. Great run now. This feels to me, I know I've been talking about Taysom Hill. They don't like, Ty Detmer does not like to call a lot of runs with his quarterback because of those injuries, but this is a place where you can use him.
They need less than a yard, and they got it. That's the fullback, Algernon Brown. Well, they needed to make the 2.
If it's a quick hitter, I don't mind the fullback on that one. I usually like it a little inside of 2 yards.
Kalani Shiitake has made his decision. And will try to pick up a couple of inches.
Is 21 back in the game, I would suspect, or is that...
No.
Taysom Hill's looking around like he wasn't quite sure about the personnel in the game. And I'm a little surprised 21's not your tailback.
It's that power formation again, and it's Brown and Bakari. Brown, boy, he's slowed up.
Yeah.
There was no hole. And he almost stopped, and there was no way he was going to get any penetration.
And there's no way Williams doesn't take that ball and go 8 feet in the air with his athleticism. You know, you mentioned it before.
Agreed.
Brown was in there to carry that. That just doesn't look like a guy comfortable carrying the ball, and he did slow down. He just completely slowed down. I just don't see how he got forward momentum. What a great stop for a depleted defense.
Not only did Brown stop his forward momentum, he stopped his legs from driving, and he didn't make it. 4:14 to go, and Michigan State takes over at their 5. Scott, the tailback on this series. And Scott gets 5 yards out to the 10.
This feels about as old-fashioned a football game as
we had
Texas, Oklahoma State last week. And it feels like a NASCAR event. It feels like the teams are just... This feels like an NFL game.
This feels like bumper cars.
It does. Not that that's a bad thing. It's different than NASCAR.
Scott. And Ed, they are getting movement in the center of that line.
They are. And that was... something they weren't. Again, I'll bring up Kevin Wilson and what is going in. Colt Schuen's now in at guard, so they're going deep on the depth chart for Michigan State.
3rd and 2. Scott again runs into his own man, and then BYU finishes him off. They'll have to punt again, and some of the natives getting a little restless here at Spartan Stadium.
Tavita Muunga is he was the guy who blew up the last power play. Watch him on this play as the guard comes down, Beadle, and he just stuffs Beadle. Beadle was the left tackle. They moved him into guard. Tyler Higbee had been playing at guard earlier in the game, and that time Muunga just stuffed the down block by Beadle. And you could see him celebrate. 6'3", 340, got good extension. And the fans here booing a little bit, feeling a little too conservative for Michigan State.
Hartbarger comes on to punt to Juergens, who comes up to make a fair catch. A yard in the Michigan State territory. A kick of 35, and BYU with great field position with 2:30 to go in the half. And BYU do anything with this couple of remaining minutes?
Well, you have all the time in the world if you're BYU. With 3 timeouts, you're on the plus side of the field. You don't have to really be in the rush for anything. I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time huddling. They seem to be taking a little bit of time, but with those 3 timeouts, and now for Michigan State, if things start going the wrong way, do you think about a timeout to save some time for your offense if it looks like you're going to get the ball back?
Taysom Hill trying to get him himself, but it was diagnosed beautifully on the outside as Dowell makes the stop.
And you can see, if you saw Taysom Hill 3 or 4 years ago, he's just not quite the same runner after those injuries. That 3 years ago, that was a 15-yard gain.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that was a good open field tackle, but he just doesn't quite have the burst. And now you have an important 3rd down because of where you are on the field. If you don't convert this, you're probably thinking punt at this point and giving the ball back with time for Michigan State.
Williams up the middle, dives forward. This can be close.
I don't think he got it. The way his body was going, this will be the 3rd short run.
Well, do you gamble here?
I think you do. You're so short because if you punt, it goes in. You're only gaining 20 yards of field position.
Now, they had Williams in on that play instead of Algernon Brown, the fullback who they had on the goal line series. Williams.
Good
I
run.
think he just got it.
Boy, that was a good run because there was linebacker running free. Shane Jones missed the tackle. The middle backer, of course, in there for Riley Bulla. But now let's see about clock management. And is it a field goal try, or are they going to get a few shots at the end zone?
BYU still has 1 timeout left. Blitz coming. Hill throws underneath. Kurtz saw it go behind him. So it'll be 2nd and 10. That only took 3 seconds. Ideally, you'd like to throw the ball to the sidelines.
Yeah, if you throw a ball to the middle of the field and it doesn't go beyond the chains for a 1st down, so they'd stop the clock, it could cost you 8 to 10 seconds to get set. So that may force you to use that last time out of yours.
Time underneath, got it to Trineman.
Watch how much
exactly
time.
What you said.
Yeah, watch how much time they take.
Well, they'll get the timeout there. Use their last one.
Yeah, they had to, because
they did a study a few years ago in the NFL that showed if you threw the ball over 10 yards downfield, it took 15 seconds to get up and kill the clock.
It'd be a little less in college because they stop the clock momentarily while they move the chains.
But underneath, you're right. It's going to take at least 10 seconds. You were looking at Rhett Almond, who was 5 for 5 this year, had a 19-yard game winner a week ago.
And it was Jake Oldroyd who had the game winner against Arizona to start the season. Who's out with a back injury, not here today.
Complete short. Now they appear that all they're trying to do is set up for a field goal here with a short pass. 14 seconds. Will they kill the clock or run a play? They'll kill it. Now if you want to throw end zone or sideline, you can still run one more play. Or complete something short over the middle. Kill it.
This is not a gimme. You're into the mid-40s here for a field goal.
13 seconds on the clock. Only 3-man rush. Hill. Taysom Hill has the 1st down, so the clock will stop. Can they line up fast enough to spike it?
They should be able to. 5 seconds is plenty of time for them to get this. They should be able to do this.
Boy, they did a great job. I mean, everybody very, very disciplined to hustle up and then stay still for a second. That's a great job.
Every coach on BYU when Taysom Hill took off thought, oh, don't do that. Because if he gets tackled before the 1st down, they do not get out their kicker, Rhett Ullman, for their first points of the game.
Now he's going to try from 35. to get BYU on the board. And he's got it.
We were both right. They got points, not 7.
That's right.
And they didn't give the ball back to the defense.
How often does that happen? 7-3, an impressive drive at the end to get on the board finally.
And finally got a 4th down pickup. I think they were 1 for 3.
True.
In that first half. The third one a charm with Jamal Williams.
BYU trying to get back to the 500 mark this year. Michigan State trying to go to 3-2. And here's Doc.
Hey, Coach, this week you talked about it being a game of inches. For most of the first half, your defense has had the inches, had a great stop on the goal line. What pleases you most about what you're seeing over on that side of the ball?
Well, we're playing hard, and, you know, we can't give up the big play on the one, but, you know, playing hard. Got bad field position, got to get better field position.
Offensively, getting some movement up front, getting some yards, but only 7 points. What are your concerns?
Well, we had one really bad series with penalties and et cetera and a couple of different things. But, yeah, we got to score more points than 7. There's no question about that. Thought we had one very good drive and came off the goal line one time, but, you know, didn't transfer into points. Field position has been the name of the game there.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Doc, thanks very much. And thank you, Mark. At the half, our score, Michigan State 7, BYU 3. When we come back, the studio brings you up to date after these messages from our ABC stations. You want old school? We got old school. Michigan State and Brigham Young 7-3 at the half. It was sort of refreshing to me.
It was. And while the fans of Michigan State were booing for some conservative play calling, I understood it a little bit. This game feels like it's going to feel like kind of a winter slugfest, and Mark D'Antonio's defense is playing way better than anybody thought they would. So I didn't mind the conservative play call by Michigan State.
Let's check in with Jerry Punch. Doc?
Hey, Coach, you got the 3 points just before halftime, but you burned some clock before opting to go for it on 4th and 1. What was the thinking there?
Just being safe just in case we didn't get it. Obviously, we got stopped on the 4th down earlier, and, you know, just didn't want to give them too much time at midfield if we didn't get it. And, you know, with Jamal in there, I felt comfortable with it. But the goal was try to get in field goal range and probably possibly take a shot and get 6 points. But we'll just have to live with that right now. But it was a positive ending.
Okay, thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Coach.
We both stood up for the right side of what the choice was, and it ended up being a good choice. They ended up executing by the skin of their teeth, but they got 3 out of it.
Edwards kicked it away, knocked it in the end zone. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary.
Well, we talked about the first drive, and it was Tyler O'Connor being a little dynamic, a couple of nice throws. And this time, Josiah Price, the all-time leading tight end touchdown receiver in Michigan State history, hits him. And then they're starting to find Donnie Corley a little bit. Then the run game, it was a really good start for Gerald Holmes, who ran with a bunch of passion and breaking tackles. And then it was Holmes that finished it. But since that drive where they scored, they have had 33 yards of total offense with good special teams play by BYU and frankly, some conservative play calling, which, like I said, I'm not totally against at this point for Michigan State.
There's the first passing yard since the first quarter for Michigan State. R.J. Shelton, who's the leading receiver in terms of yards, with 244 coming in only 4 games.
That's tough to cover because the corner has to continue. Michael Davis has to continue to go with the deep receiver. Good throw by O'Connor. And there they come out looking like that first drive again. Remember, that first drive was an answer. BYU went right down the field on their opening drive, was not able to convert a 4th down, got no points, and Michigan State came back and scored on their opening possession.
End around to Shelton. Defense very well. Hanneman came up from his safety spot and wouldn't let him turn the corner. They strung out that play very nicely.
And R.J. Shelton, a guy that they're trying to get involved a bunch of different ways. We already saw him on that out-cut route that he caught on the first down. Then they bring him on the jet sweep. Senior out of Wisconsin.
We're still looking for that guy who's a dynamic playmaker on offense, and haven't found them yet. Got some good players, but nobody who seems to scare the daylights out of the opposition yet. Little option look. Holmes in the backfield and taken down. Nice play by Sai Tautu.
And Tai Tautu was a guy who was out as well in the first half of this game. He had a targeting play against Toledo last week in the second half. So like Malik McDowell, who'll be back for Michigan State when BYU is on offense. This is a first play for Tautu coming out, and a guy that has played a little more stand up at the defensive end as they switch to a 4-3.
3rd and 6 for O'Connor. Blitz coming. They pick it up, and now O'Connor can't find anybody, and he's sacked. And it's Tautu again. So he's making an impact coming out of the locker room.
Well, Harvey Longy and Tautu are two guys that the coaches, Tuiaki, the defensive coordinator, said we really expect a lot out of these ends. They run a stunt up front and just terrific coverage. Nobody was open. And Tautu does a nice job. He didn't blow up his man, but he stayed alive. And O'Connor, just trying to find some time, runs into his arms.
Right at the end, he had somebody who was open, but he couldn't get into his throwing motion because of the pressure. 36-yard kick, no return. BYU down by 4. They'll have the ball when we come back. Pressure coming. Hill steps up, dumps it underneath to Kurtz. Kurtz first down and more to midfield.
Terrific job by Hill stepping up in the pocket. There was pressure. McDowell had a beat on his side. And Hill showing, you can tell that there's an old NFL quarterback in Ty Detmer coaching this guy. You can tell there's been a lot of work on pocket presence. Not that there wasn't before. I'm not disparaging the last staff, which did an amazing job here at BYU. But you can see a guy who has transformed himself into a running quarterback and really doing a nice job working the pocket.
Kurtz just now getting healthy, had a broken foot in July. He is a big target on the outside. Williams lowers his pads, dives inside the 45. More on Taysom Hill from Jerry Punch. Doc?
Yeah, I asked Ty Detmer before the game about what the NFL scouts thought about Taysom Hill. He said, you know what? They like his arm. They like his pocket presence. You just heard Ed talk about. And his decision-making. He can make all the passes. He has touch on the ball. And they were surprised at how mobile he still is. In fact, they want a little bigger sample to watch him for more games this year. But his stock is rising.
I can see why. He really does have a good arm. You can see his footwork. It's not perfect all the time, but it's getting close to it. He's put in some real work.
Hill takes off. Doesn't slide. Lowers his shoulder. Gets the first down at the 39. The thing I like about him the most, Ed, is his attitude. He's got a great outlook.
Well, and that's what the coaches, when they talked about the quarterback, between he and Tanner Mangum to see who would start this year, obviously Taysom Hill brings a little more athleticism to the position, so you get that type of run. But they immediately, Ty Detmer said, he's just such a dynamic leader. There is Mangum, who Detmer calls the future quarterback, will be the starter as senior Hill moves on next year. Did a fine job last year.
Threw for almost 3,400 yards a year ago. The other thing about Taysom Hill, even with all those injuries, you would think he might be gun shy, but he's not. He's willing to stick his face in a fan.
Yeah, he is a tough competitor who he's paid his dues, and this is not the senior season, not quite gotten off to the record start that he wants, but you have a feeling the schedule for BYU gets so much easier in the second half of the season than it is so front-loaded. Their first 7 games are just a gauntlet. So this team is going to get plenty of wins, and they have themselves a real quarterback who looks really good in the pocket.
Canada in at tailback. Hill throws to the outside. Complete to Colby Pearson. And Pearson is planted at the 32 by Tyson Smith, who got a start today.
I'm also starting to notice some players getting a little, it's all clean there. Starting to see some players getting a little chippy down there. I saw Taysom Hill kind of going jaw to jaw with a couple of guys. This has been one of those hard-fought games, and here you are on 3rd and short, and it doesn't look like Jamal Williams is in the game again. It looks like they've gone with the bigger back, Algernon Brown, which has not been a successful running package for BYU.
Taysom Hill will follow Brown. An extra effort got the first down. Good block in front of him by Parker Daw, number 54.
He should be fired up because this is not a first down if not for what you were just talking about. I mean, this he's got to fight for that. It's that extra half yard, and Hill gets up celebrating, Mike. But that's why they said he ended up winning the job. Is he's so tough. He's such a great leader. All the players rally around him, and going into his senior year, they felt like it was the right call.
Obviously been big time in the second half so far. Williams back in. McDowell is right there. And you've got to identify where Malik McDowell is lining up on the line of scrimmage, because that is not the place to run.
He's such an impressive guy for as tall as he is. He's 6'6". It's rare for a guy that tall to be able to play with the pad level as low as he does. He's great with his hands. He's a big guy, but he doesn't look huge because he's so proportioned well. Again, when he was a true freshman, you could see, and this has been a great defensive line over the last 3 or 4 years. Shalik Calhoun, some of the greatest names in the Big Ten on that line, and he really stood out even as a true freshman 3 years ago.
The only returning starter. Hill down the middle, overthrows. Flag is down in the secondary. Hefo was looking toward the official all the way like I was held earlier. Yeah. No flag, well, and then they threw it.
And Hill, right when he threw it, immediately pointed to the area like, wait, he was pushed off his mark. So it looks like we might get defense passing.
Holding.
Well, holding.
Defense, number 7. 10-yard penalty from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
Because you're not going to see Taysom Hill miss that badly very often.
Demetrius Cox. That's a hold. Yeah, that's a hold. He's going
pretty good
against
one, too.
Efo. And he was beat. You know, you're going to give up 7 points. If you're beat, you might as well hold.
Cox, a fifth-year senior. A lot of fifth-year seniors on this ball. Hill on the keeper. Stiff arm. How tough is Hill? Tyson Smith just driven into the turf by the quarterback.
He doesn't have the quicks of the 2013 model, Hill, but he's got the toughness, and he's got a little Leonard Fournette in him there.
I mean, when you can discard tacklers, that's pretty good.
He's not a small guy. He's 6'2", 235. So Hill is as big as most middle linebackers. So he's not a small guy when you go over to tackle him.
Hill looks to the end zone, throws, touchdown. Colby Pearson, who ran a great pattern, drove the defender to the inside, went back out, and Taysom Hill was perfect.
Terrific job. Make sure this is a catch. Oh, it looks like it does not look like the ball hit the ground at all. It looked like Pearson did have control through the catch. And I want to give a special note to Jamal Williams. They brought 2 blitzers from that side. He picked up the inside one, which gave Taysom Hill just another second. There were way too many bodies in there to run it, so a good job by Hill coming out to the throw.
This was back in the day, a pattern that Sonny Jurgensen always used for the Redskins. Had a receiver named Angelo Coya who ran that pattern time after time after time. It was the touchdown every time they ran it, just like that one. All day. They were at Crunchies, the most popular place on the Michigan State campus. Good choice, guys.
Just give me a bucket. It's wafer thin.
Edwards, that goes out of bounds.
That's a mistake.
Michigan State back on offense. It's something they haven't done very much. That's Madre London with his first carry. Now for the answer to our trivia question. Prior to Mark D'Antonio, who was the last Michigan State head coach to win 9 games in a single season? Went 9-2 in 1999. It was Nick Saban, and you're right. He went to LSU, and there was a lot of consternation down there over that hire.
A lot of people saying, wait, we got a Big Ten coach who could only win 9 games. What's going on? And of course, that worked out pretty well.
Worked out pretty well, yes.
And for Alabama.
Throw underneath. It would have been complete, but dropped by Maxud. And you will see the current incarnation of Nick Saban at Alabama, where they're pretty satisfied with hiring him.
Yeah, I was going to say, the being bummed out was fixed by several national championships, 1 at LSU and 3 at Alabama.
3rd and 6, the natives are restless again. Madre London, and they're the 3rd tailback to play. O'Connor in trouble, and they got him.
He panicked a bit. And the crowd here a little upset. Brian Allen, the center, complaining to the officials. I'm not sure what he was complaining about.
Tautu and Tuiloma made the tackle. Well, they might have thought there was offsides.
Well, you know, I saw it before the snap. I didn't know that the guy was clearly in the neutral zone. But at the same time, O'Connor went to bail out of that pocket, and the pocket was there. There wasn't much open. He was seeing coverage everywhere, but he went to bail, and I think that's what ultimately caused the sack.
Juergens makes a fair catch at the 30 after a 40-yard kick. And
you know, and people tell you once you get in conference, it's always easier, because it's teams that have seen you multiple times.
Exactly.
When you play someone like Oklahoma or someone out of conference, that's a first-time deal they're trying to solve you. But you're playing teams that have seen you 2, 3, 4 times, same personnel, same schemes. They start to figure things out in conference more than some non-conference opponents may be able to.
Williams, a tough run for about 3. Shane Jones, the middle linebacker, on the stop.
And right now, Malik McDowell not in the game. Instead, they have Brandon Clemens, young man who switched over to defensive tackle from offensive line, had been playing some defensive tackle. I would assume that's just a rotation. They do want to keep guys fresh. I don't think it's anything other than that.
They do that a lot. They've even started doing it on the offensive line, which most teams don't do.
Yeah, they cross-train on the offensive line, meaning different positions for different guys as much or more than anything.
Williams again, nice hole this time, and plows forward for a first down out to the 41.
And guess who comes trotting back onto the field? Big number 4. And usually big number 4 is a wide receiver or somebody playing quarterback, but for Michigan State it happens to be a defensive tackle. That will change when Mr. McDowell goes up to the NFL. He'll have to wear a double-digit number.
I think he probably told them he was going to take number 4 and nobody was going to stop him. Canada back in there at tailback. Has some quickness, doesn't he? Down to the 33-yard line, another first down, a scamper of 16 yards before Tyson Smith gets it.
Tui Kanuch, I believe, is now playing left guard. Watch the mash that happens here on the left side. And that's Malik McDowell. What McDowell will do sometimes is he'll jump out of his gap. You saw that big jump that time, and it was really good balance on the left side of the line. Keon Norman over there as well. And Squally Cannon was a guy, when I was watching the game from last week, he looked as impressive to me as Williams in his record-setting performance.
Big hole for him again. Piles his way down to the 24, maybe half a yard shy of another first down.
And BYU sidelines went on that run. Every guy on the sidelines pumping their fist, because this is what, don't forget, Kalani Sitake, this is his first time as a head coach. Be who you are. Well, he was a fullback. He ended up going to Cincinnati Bengals, had to retire due to some injuries. He wanted to have a powerful run game, and he's got 2 really good running backs and an offensive line starting to take this game over.
This will end the 3rd quarter. BYU trying to even its record on the road at Michigan State with a 3-point lead and 1 quarter to go from East Lansing. Beautiful day for a football game, and BYU is on top as we go to the 4th quarter. Brigham Young gets its only touchdown in the 3rd quarter, and now they are starting to dominate statistically as Michigan State's been held to 112 yards. Canada, nice stutter step, but only gets about a half a yard out of it.
Yeah, and you keep it in mind the
Enough
struggles
for a first down, though.
For Michigan State. Of course, Michigan State last year with Connor Cook, and we saw Connor Cook here in the game against Indiana look as good as a college quarterback can look.
Yes,
he was
sir.
playing at a peak when Michigan State last year had struggles running the ball at times. Everything went through Cook. You lose that elite quarterback, and now you're struggling to move the ball against the team BYU, which gave up 500-plus yards to Toledo last week. So quite a different season for Michigan State than last year.
Williams is back in. Taysom Hill fakes to him and throws for the end zone, overthrown. Very well covered. Austin Lane, who was assigned to play defense this week, is a wide receiver. He had the coverage that time. He was all over his man.
Guy that they cross-train here at Michigan State like we've been talking about.
Williams.
Ooh, he runs hard.
Yes, he does.
He is a dynamic guy. He's got a great personality. He's engaging with the audience earlier.
He needed 226 yards coming into this game for the all-time school record. He's not going to get it today, but he will get it. And Harvey Unga, who's a coach on this ball club, is the guy who holds the record.
He'd happily hand it over. But as well as they've been running it, third and medium can be a rundown. I think you'd want to do it from some type of option or spread, but I don't think if you're BYU, Taysom Hill necessarily has to throw a sort of drop-back throw here.
Third call at 5. Williams on the swing, lost his footing, got it back, and dives to the 13-yard line. Boy, this is going to be close.
Terrific call.
If he doesn't lose his footing after he catches it, he goes another 5 yards.
He got a great block downfield, and in college football, you can block downfield when the ball is thrown short. So a terrific call, like a toss sweep, and I think here you're going for it on fourth down.
Field goal only makes it 6 points.
It's only 6, and so here you go, fourth time today.
Let's see who's in the backfield.
Well, they brought in bigger bodies. My mind will be blown if it's not 21.
Now, Williams is there. Huge play. Fake to Williams. Hill looking, throws, and got the fullback. Troy Hines, number 44, who is a fullback / tight end, made that catch, then fumbled it out of bounds. Is it a catch?
Let's see if he catches this through the catch.
Sure did.
Yeah, he did. That ball, no, he had, I think they will review this. However, that is a catch. He had made a football move with the ball. Good job by Taysom Hill.
Taysom Hill on the keeper touchdown. He looked a little quicker on that one.
And I think the Michigan State fans here are a little miffed that they didn't get a replay on that catch by Troy Hines. Hines, a converted defensive end linebacker, a highly rated guy, recruit that hadn't quite found his spot. He was covered at first, came open, but from the replay I saw, it looked like Hines made the catch, and then after the tackle and going down was when the ball came out.
It seemed pretty clear that he made a football move after he got both feet on the ground, so that is a catch, and that is a big touchdown run. The lead grows to 10. Welcome back to East Lansing. Let's take a look at our Pacific Life game summary. And the thing that stands out here, not just the 14 BYU points in the second half, but Taysom Hill starting to rack up the yards. 45 rushing, 138 passing, 2 scores. Remember, 19 of 27 starts he's had in his career, he's rushed for 60 yards or more. He's approaching that. Shelton on the return. Clock continues to run. We're down to 10:15. Terry throws underneath. That one's complete. No signal from the referee yet. It looked for all the world like he was down.
And I like that the officials are coming together before they make a call. You see all the striped shirts. They're going to talk about it on the field before they make a decision. This is good officiating.
The ruling on the field is a catch and down by rule. First down.
Good officiating. It looked like the linesman on this side wasn't quite sure, so he waited for his mates to come over.
Knees down.
Yeah, he's down before the ball comes out.
But you're right. That's a nice piece of officiating, and that's the way when you went to the officials clinic, they wanted to train you that way.
Don't make a call if you're not 1,000% sure. Someone else probably had eyes on it, and they made the right call there.
Terry, as they chant his name in the background, throws underneath and has it picked off by Michael Davis. Davis down the sideline. Did he stay in bounds? No, finally out of bounds. The chant of Terry died in the arms of an interception.
And all of a sudden, it'll be a lot easier getting back to our hotel after the ball game. Whew. These fans have had enough.
This interception puts BYU in the driver's seat, doesn't it?
It sure does. And just a little bit of a late throw to the inside. Great job by Michael Davis. And I was saying this isn't 2015 in East Lansing anymore. We'll show you a graphic here in a second that is pretty explanatory as to why. There's very few stats that matter more in sports than turnovers in football. And to go from plus 14 to -2 tells you kind of everything you need to know. Last year, even when they weren't perfect on offense, they could rely on Connor Cook. He didn't throw interceptions. They could make some plays downfield. And right now, just trying to find anything to get going. And frankly, a defensive performance today that I think may have been better than they expected with all the guys that they had out. It's not like they've been gouged. I mean, they were down to third-string defensive linemen in some positions, and they kind of held their own. It's the offensive side that's just not clicking for the Spartans at the moment.
Canada. Boy, he's shown a burst. Drives inside the 15, still on his feet.
I turned on the film to watch the game against Toledo yesterday, and I'm just flipping around, and the first running back I see is 22, and I think, well, Jamal Williams 21. Why would he be? And as he was running, I'm like, oh, he must have changed his number. These guys look similar. They run similar. They have similar body types. And this guy, obviously, when he gets his chance, is not interested in giving up. Grit. I think you'd define that as some extra grit.
BYU very happy to take their old sweet time, using every second off of this play clock. Michigan State has not lost 3 games in a row since early in the 2009 season, and right now they're staring that prospect in the face. First and goal, BYU.
Good use of the play clock here.
Williams back in. Williams, touchdown. Williams has his total up to 83 yards on the ground after 286 last week. The nation's second leading rusher coming in.
You said he's not going to get number 1 today. There's still 8 minutes left, and Mark D'Antonio's team looks like the wind is out of their sails.
I don't think he's got another 150 in his future in this game. Point after is good, and they are headed for the exits in East Lansing. Jamal Williams, and BYU up 24-7.
These guys were not part of the droves of people who were leaving, although the arms folded across the chest tell you how happy they are.
Yeah. They're just not used to this. Remember, last 6 years, they had won 11 games 5 different times. This is R.J. Shelton on the return up to the 25. The clock, the biggest enemy now. Terry on the action. Drilled by Bernard as he got across the 45-yard line. BYU has put up 24 in a row after spotting Michigan State a 7-0 lead.
It's hard to believe, but they didn't take their first lead until 4:52 left in the 3rd quarter. This was a very tight ball game.
Terry, nice touch there. perfect throw to Felton Davis. That's only his 5th catch of the entire season, a gain of 28 yards.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what the competition looks like this week. I'm not taking anything away from Tyler O'Connor. This is not all his fault is what's been going on, but Damian Terry, I think, doesn't quite have the throw accuracy of O'Connor, but he does add a dynamic runner. While O'Connor is an efficient and effective runner, I think that you can change your offense a little bit. I think this guy gives you a little something different on the outside than Brian Lewerke and O'Connor would as the other quarterbacks.
O'Connor, now with the headset on, the 5th-year senior. Terry on 2nd and 10, pressured, cuts it up inside and dives forward near the 20.
And you know, the fans who have stayed, the ones who didn't take off, you can hear them. They're excited by the fact that when this guy takes off, there's going to be more yardage there than just kind of the normal quarterback draw. And I think maybe that's what may turn the tide here. I'd be shocked next week if there's not an open competition at this position.
Little swing to Holmes. Down to the 16.
And who knows, maybe you end up, if you're Michigan State, you kind of swap in and out with O'Connor, a guy who's earned the right to play, worked really hard as a 5th-year senior, waited his turn behind the best quarterback, arguably, in the school's history, in Connor Cook. So maybe it ends up being a two-man rotation.
Terry for the end zone. A lot of contact there. There's the flag. Michael Davis never got his head around. He just had his hands locked up on the receiver. And in that case, the receiver tries to go somewhere and he can't.
And again, we've seen this where guys are in good position. Michael Davis, tall, 6'2", long arms for a corner.
Pass interference. Defense number 15. Foul occurred in the end zone. By rule, the ball be placed at the 2-yard line. First down.
And of course, Davis is a guy who had the earlier interception.
And he's right in position. If he just takes his hands off and goes, he might pick it if he actually plays the ball. I think that's going to be a big learning moment for this defensive staff. You are in position. You have body control. Find that ball, man. Go make a play. No need to make pass interference there.
1st and goal. Quarterback keeper. Little pushing and shoving after the play, but a touchdown for the Spartans.
Damian Terry that was a physical drive for him on the play before. He chose to cut it up inside and lower his shoulder and got hit pretty hard. And the students who have decided to stick it out brought their blankets and their headgear and their goggles. Getting ready for Halloween here in East Lansing, it looks like.
Get the point after to cut it to 10. When we come back, Michigan State has some decisions to make. Do they kick it away, use their timeouts, or do we start trying onside?
Now, of course, Michigan State, I think, wisely lining up for their onside kick.
They need 2 scores, so they have to have an onside kick eventually. And they've decided they're going to take it here. Nope.
Ooh, that's shocking. Down 2 scores. The way that BYU has been running the ball, I'm not sure you're going to get it back.
Brigham Young's job, get a first down. Williams didn't get back to the line of scrimmage. Stopped by Chris Fry, the leading tackler on this ball club.
Good job by Fry. He was the guy who missed a tackle earlier. And Michigan State takes their timeout.
2nd and 9. Williams breaks the tackle, gets outside, and goes out of bounds, which was the last thing he wanted to do.
Man, take a slide there. You picked up good positive yardage. Michigan State is going all out with guys at the line of scrimmage flying through their gaps and just trying to get negative yardage plays.
They'll need about a yard here.
If they pick up this first down, now you're into a second set of downs with only 1 timeout left. So again, you're just shortening the clock even more.
Taysom Hill slipped a tackle and has a first down. what a move by Hill as he got away from Demetrius Cooper, who had him dead to rights.
Cooper had this for about a 2 or 3 yard loss right up top. He reads it perfectly and can't finish it. And Hill just quick enough, just strong enough, just big enough, just everything enough to pick up a first down.
Cooper played it beautifully, stayed home, didn't get sucked in by the fake, and then couldn't make the tackle.
Now you're really up against it for Michigan State, down 2 scores.
And that's it for Michigan State. They have used their last timeout, so they will be desperately trying to rake the ball away from whoever has it.
I think it's good to take a moment in a year that's a little bit of a down year for Michigan State, just to put into context the brilliant job Mark D'Antonio and his staff have done here. This is a place that has some history, but to look at what they've done since 2010, what this program has done has been nothing short of extraordinary. 6 wins, of course. You remember Jalen Watts-Jackson with the muffed punt return touchdown. Then they had a tough loss, and that's kind of when you felt like maybe the karma was starting to turn a little bit, and then a tough start, 0-2 in the Big Ten for the first time, and they are 0-3 at home now if they lose this game to BYU. Just a really tough start to what has been a superbly successful run under Mark D'Antonio. And don't think this team's not going to get better and not going to be able to play with some people by the end of the year in conference. They'll get better because they're
they'll get better because he's here.
Yeah, they're well coached. Every position is well coached. They have a great program in place. But it's easy to start getting down in the mouth because this isn't Michigan State's year. Michigan State's been really good for several years, and that's a mouthful in a conference that's this competitive at a place that has another big school, obviously, in the state competing against teams like Ohio State for players. He's done a magnificent job.
Williams up the middle. Out of bounds at the 2. $161 yards on the day for Williams after he went for 268 last week.
And watch his eyes look up at the screen right here, and he's going to see Nicholson behind him, and that's why he made the cut.
Isn't that terrific?
As I'm watching him, I could see Nicholson tracking. I'm thinking he's going to pop that ball out if he's not careful. And Williams looked up to the diamond vision at the end of the run, and he saw Nicholson, and he made the cut. It was a video game. It was a different angle.
Use all the tools you can.
But you are at a place where you're on the time where you don't necessarily have to run another play, Mike. So I think you're right.
Williams stretches. Oh, and they're going to mark him short.
Yeah, right under 3 minutes is how much you should be able to run off in that situation. Now that one looks to me like a touchdown. The last one that we couldn't see with Gerald Holmes, that one it looked like we could see.
You can tell that his knees are on another player and not on the ground.
Surprised this is not being reviewed like the one before. But again, I'm with you, Mike. I'm not, and BYU is going to score and they're going to win this game. But if you're going to lose it, fumbling is the way it's going to happen.
Williams into the end zone, touchdown.
Like I said, it's very nitpicky at that point, but strategically look back and say, hey, could we have just taken some knees there and not risked a turnover? Minor things, because this is a terrific win for BYU.
I really like the safe way.
Yeah.
Where you can just take a knee for 4 plays and say, let's head to the bus.
Yeah. And what a great win for Kalani Sitake and his staff. In their first season at BYU, I think the entire community was a bit shocked when Bronco Mendenhall decided to leave and go to a Power 5 conference school. One that, you look at Virginia and say, wait a minute, are you really upgrading? You may be going to a Power 5 conference, but are you really upgrading? And to get a guy who's rich in the history and understands it and can coach as well as Sataki was a brilliant hire for BYU. But you got a sense talking to Sataki this week, he's a very comfortable head coach. And you don't always hear that with guys who've been coordinators, but he seems in full command of what he's doing.
Shelton from the 1. Upended at the 17. Doc, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but to me, if BYU does not get into an expansion system with a power conference, that's the only way they're going to contend for a national championship.
Absolutely, Mike, and what an impressive performance today. When you talk to Kalani Sitake and his staff, they will absolutely tell you the priorities at this school are faith, family, and football. The faith part of this team, 84 players have served missions and 27 are on a mission. And Kalani Sitake, the family part, he has 21 former players who are on his staff or somewhere in the administration, 21 former Cougar players, keeping them in the family.
And they certainly have that Polynesian connection going where they get a lot of linemen. Terry under pressure as they came with the blitz and get him back at the 15.
Going back to the expansion, to me, the only conferences that make sense would be the Big 12 or the Pac-12. Pac-12 would be the most obvious with a natural rivalry there with Utah.
Right.
But I don't know that that's going to happen because BYU will not play sports on Sunday. It is not a part of their religion. They will not break that rule, and that's been a problem for them with the Pac-12. But I think that while it is...
And that's for other sports, not football.
Exactly. Which that is the bigger issue, is the other sports, which do play quite a few games on Sundays. But I think this school has a ton of value as an independent. I think that they will continue to be able to stack a schedule like they did this year that's competitive, where in a year that you go 12-0, I think the College Football Playoff Committee would have a really hard time if there's a bunch of 1-loss, maybe another 2-loss in there, BYU not getting in there. So while they may not end up in the near future in a Power 5 conference, I think they have so much value. They travel well. They brought a lot of fans showed up here to Michigan State to support this team.
Terry way too hard on a little swing and off the hands of Holmes. My concern would be if you upgrade your schedule to the point where it is competitive and you could get to a national championship game, you're going to have to play those other power schools on the road. They're not going to come to BYU to play.
That hasn't been the case, though, Mike. They have found schools that will do home and home. I don't know that you're going to find Alabama wanting to do a home and home with BYU, but you are going to get home and homes with kind of the mid-level Power 5 schools and then go on the road and play some tough games. But I agree. It will be hard over time to get a top 10 or top 15 team to do a home and home. I do think that would be tough.
4th and 12. Terry takes off and is going to be brought down shy of the yard to make.
But I think if you look at their schedule this year, as everybody's getting their hugs on, and if you laid that schedule out and you laid that against any conference schedule in the country at the end of the season, if it was 12-0 against 11-1, I don't think they'd go over a 12-0, but I think you'd have an argument with that schedule against an 11-1 team in the Pac-12 or the Big Ten or the ACC, or at that point 12-1 if they win their conference, to say we deserve to be in. This is a hard schedule to keep up. I don't know that they'll be able to schedule like that every year.
Right.
Because this year was an extraordinary schedule that they put together. Extraordinarily difficult, let's be clear. But if you're going to compete at the highest level, there's the schedule that says you're doing it.
It is a big win for the program as they go to 3-3. And you can see good things ahead for the rest of the season, can't you?
Yeah, this is a good squad. You could see that early in the year they were just trying to figure out all new systems. Remember that. All new on offense, all new on defense. Satake got a shower. That's all right. It's not that cold yet. He's pointing people out who got him. He was...
No, and he'll take as many of those as you want to give him, too.
Yeah, he was really fun to talk to the other day. You could just hear how much pride and excitement he has to be back at his alma mater as the head coach.
And you got to be happy for that kid. He has overcome so much to be able to continue to play college football. And another tough afternoon for Mark D'Antonio. and his Spartans. Once again, our final score from East Lansing: BYU 31, Michigan State 14. Let's go to the sideline with Jerry.
Down here with BYU head coach. Coach, what a difference in the second half. You come out of the locker room and just dominate physically on both sides of the ball. What changed?
Well, we just challenged our guys. We said this game would be won in the line of scrimmage on D-line and O-line. And just really extremely proud of our guys, our players. Taysom did a great job leading our offense, and that's what happens when we put together a complete game.
Time and again, Taysom Hill just showed some guts, trying to make it 4th and short, diving head first, sliding head first. How would you describe his effort today?
No words. This guy just does everything you ask him to. He's ideal as a player, great leader, humble, and he's all about the team. I love having him here. I just wish he had more years, but he's a great young man and does a great job for our team.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you, Jerry. The final 31-14 BYU. Don't forget tonight at 8 Eastern, ABC Saturday Night Football has number 10 Miami hosting number 23 Florida State. For Ed Cunningham and Dr. Jerry Punch and our entire ABC crew, this is Mike Patrick saying so long from East Lansing, Michigan. Thanks for watching, everybody.